Man, check you out.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you some of the stuff so you can see, because we got mad stuff. Like, this ain't even have to.
And before we submit, I'm gonna submit it to the attorney too. Long,
I'll upload it and give it to you guys. It'll be unlisted. Nobody can watch it. Once you say it can be published, you hit one button and then you're up. You're clear.
Sweet, bro.
Yeah, it makes sense. So,
and you can post it too after I get the clear. So yeah,
that's the point. It's only going on our page, because this is both business and life. And
it is. You got to watch out, man.
Like, I remember a dude that sit down 10 years from now when we work about fucking $1.5 billion. But let's talk about character and choosing the right partners, and then we'll get into all the good stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But when you start thinking about, hey, what made you get into business with these people? Were there any signs that you saw early on, like a red flag?
Yeah.
That you said, maybe not, maybe should. I think I can help them figure it out regardless.
Well, essentially early on, one of them I had worked with at a previous company. He did the sales for the previous company. And I was generating all of the leads and working on the back end of the stores and helping with the customer support and finding products. All he did the sales side, right? So essentially, he was taking the leads that I'm sending in and closing the deals. I got along with him. I never hung out with him. And now the other partner, I had never known. I had never known previously. And prior to getting into business with them, everyone told me, Scott, no, don't get into business with either one of those guys. No, man, they're like, dude, they're like Amway guys, man. They're like, they'll never let you go, man. These guys are multi-level marketers. You know, they don't have integrity. This is what everyone had told me. And I had already had another company previously, and I struggled with it because I didn't have partners. And I really wanted partners because I didn't think that I thought that I would struggle trying to do all the heavy lifting on my own. Because if you have good partners, it's worth its weight in gold, man, if you got good people.
Man. So what was it that you overlooked? Like, why do you think you overlooked it?
I think because more than my ego, it was about my vision of client success. Because of what I had seen previously, I thought that one of them in particular, I thought he had a higher level of integrity.
Now, please, before you move on, we just had a conversation the other day with a couple guys, and unfortunately, a lot of men cannot define integrity in today's world. So, what does integrity mean to you, and how do you define it in your life today?
I think doing what's right, even when people aren't watching. I think doing what's right, even when it's difficult. And when it's not the easy thing, right? Being truthful in your actions and doing what's right is integrity, in my opinion. I define it in the same way. I don't take the easy road. I always try to do what is right first, right? What is the right thing to do? What is morally and ethically the right decision? And and that's exactly what I did. That's how I follow it.
So you saw, and we're going to get there in more detail, but you saw that the sabotaging was taking place, especially after you got into the numbers, the books, the emails, and then the messaging side of things. How did you feel about some of the people that you thought were basically about their business, as you learned that they literally had set you up for failure down there?
According to our attorney, they lit the fuse and walked away. I was in shock. I didn't expect it to be, I didn't expect it to be to such a degree, that, some of the stuff that I had started finding and it just it was a snowball. I'm like, what? How is this even possible, right? Why would you do this? Like, if I'm taking over the company and I'm finding all these problems, why would you still want to, why would you want to sabotage somebody? If somebody's taking over your business and taking over and they're finding problems that you didn't disclose that, why would you still want to sabotage those people? Right? They're taking care of your problems. You're supposed to try to help them out. They're cleaning up your mess or trying to clean up your mess. But unfortunately, there was just so many problems that I just kept finding. And I don't mean like small problems. I'm talking about giant, hundreds of thousands of dollars of problems.
So from a character standpoint, which in this situation, which person broke your heart the most?
I would say the one that I worked with previously at the other company, because I expected him to have a higher level of integrity, to be quite honest with you. But during the years of working together, I noticed that there was a lot of ego involved. And, when working for the other company, we were both kind of close. And I always, and I could feel over the last several years that there was some kind of almost jealousy, right? There was some kind of jealousy because I'm very knowledgeable about business. And so I didn't like the fact that, at one point in time I considered him a friend, and then over the years of working with him, it became more of a competition and an ego-driven thing instead of a, hey, let's make this win thing, right? Let's make it win for the clients. Let's make it win for each. To me, it's not about ego. One of them had said previously, and I totally agree with it. The ego is not your amigo, right? But only if people really believe that. So I think that I knew that there was some animosity for some reason or another on the other side, and I never really understood why. But essentially the things that I had found in the sabotage, essentially that I had found, or just maybe not even sabotage, just the stuff that I had found, or the intentional files that were shared outside of the organization before they were deleted. And I can get into the other file names and stuff like that here soon in another series.
So now that you walked into the situation where basically it's a bigger headache than you thought, Aspen's not going to fix this.
Hell no. No, I mean, this thing, essentially it's borderline flatlined, right? And I hate to say that because we've got great people, we've got great clients, we have great staff. But there's only so much that one person can do, right? So for example, our inventory orders before were, granted they were, last year I think they were right around 200 to 360,000, of a 250 to 360,000 per month for inventory. Well, that allows me to do a lot, right? But then when I take over the company, they went from 160 to 20,000 to 20,000 a month. Well, what happened? Where did you get 20,000? And don't get me wrong, I can go look at the exact numbers. It may have been 60,000, but you get the point, right? Essentially, orders for years have been very high, and then all of a sudden there's no inventory orders. Well, why? What happened there? I know why now. What happened? And I know that one of the employees, and I have got proof of this too. One of the employees was told by another owner to reach out to clients to tell them to stop buying inventory. And so now I can't.
What inventory do you house?
So, well, we house all kinds. We house millions of different kinds of inventory. So a lot of that inventory could be, a lot of it previously was apparel. I'm not a really big fan of women's apparel, and I wanted to shift from women's apparel because of what is known as a return rate. So when you're buying, for me as a business model, it makes no sense to be paying somebody $25 an hour at a warehouse in the United States to pack and prep $4 items on a $10,000 manifest. It takes forever to fulfill. And women's apparel has a return rate. Across a lot of the stores, the return rates are 53%. And every time an item is returned, Amazon charges you 15% of that original cost. So essentially, you've got storage fees and you've got return fees, right? And and nobody really even looks at the refund rate. That's another thing that we added to the report, so we could actually see the refund rate of every single store. And so I wanted to get into higher, better paying items margins, so that one, we can fulfill the stores faster, two, reduce the amount of overhead, three, reduce the return rate, and four, put more profitable profitable items in every store.
And clearly they weren't thinking this way.
No, because, and I can't say for certain what they're thinking, but, and based on my personal opinion.
Well, the numbers don't lie.
The numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie at all. It's easier to, in my opinion, it's easier to overcharge for a bunch of cheap stuff than actually taking the time, right? And I'm not saying that anybody did this, but it's easier to overcharge for cheap stuff and just keep putting stuff out into people's stores that you can get that's plentiful, versus trying to find items that are that have that might cost more, right? They might be, you get the idea. So maybe that's part of just wanting to keep the warehouse busy at the same time, make sure that they have products to fulfill or whatever. But if you see something's not working, you need to adapt. I would say improvise, adapt, overcome. So you have to be able, if you find there's a problem, right, and you see there's a problem, there's an ongoing problem, and you can fix the problem or adapt to make it a better situation, then you need to figure out what that is or where those lie.
Now, walk them through every part of the business that's an asset to you, down to owning the site, having the warehouse, having the inventory, what part of this business, as you embraced it all, actually was in good standings, for one?
Well, there's two companies. It was Smart FBA and Smart Wholesale. And essentially, Smart FBA by itself wasn't really in a bad predicament, other than the fact of the liquidate. So there was a sheet that I didn't have, that was deleted. And it was a liquidation sheet. And that liquidation sheet had the amounts of store owners that we owed money to for inventory that we brought back to Smart Wholesale. The NDA came out from Smart FBA, but Smart Wholesale took the products. And I was told before, if somebody should have said, if these things aren't being paid, and I wouldn't have kept signing out forms for this over an 8-month period or 9-month period or whatever it was. I wouldn't keep signing the form for these things if they weren't being paid. And I couldn't wire funds from the account either. I mean, half the time I didn't even have access to all of the accounts. So anyway, you get the idea.
And so
Smart FBA should have been in the best position to win. And the inventory that was brought back went to Smart Wholesale, not Smart FBA. And so Smart FBA should have been run clean because of this. So if that makes sense.
So walk them through what you thought you were solving versus what became reality.
So my thinking is, okay, well, with my knowledge of product research and my knowledge of business, when I came on, I thought, okay, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to upload. I'm going to try to can Poshmark Macari because it's overhead and intensive. And in addition to that, it's not extremely profitable for clients. So a lot of clients that are doing the Poshmark Macari aren't really happy, right? The eBay Poshmark Macari aren't really happy. Walmart stores, however, are generally can be extremely profitable. Not saying that they always are, but they can be. And it requires less heavy lifting, right? So my thinking is okay, let's move all of our clients, all of them. I wanted to move all of our clients to Amazon and to Walmart, right? And what I wanted to do is because it's less labor intensive, people don't have to worry about, if this VA or whoever didn't ship this order in time, or you get the idea. It's because I don't want delays on manpower, right? So in other words, if somebody needs a tracking number or somebody's sick and this client didn't, somebody's Poshmark order didn't go out on time, why not just have Walmart deliver the item, right? And so I thought I was just going to come on, do some awesome product research, right? Put a bunch of winning items into people's stores, and improve the processes overall because I'm kind of a process guy. I wanted to come on in, clean up the mess, clean up some of the financial waste that was going on, like all these OA lead lists, right? Tens of, I can't even tell you how many thousands of dollars of wasted money we spent on leads list, right? To actually just finding winning products and putting them in people's stores.
And in your experience, then, what is a winning product? So, someone to start today, what would be the 3 products you recommend?
Well, products are going to change really quick, but so they change daily, right? So today you could have, say for example, I would say it's more than three things. It wouldn't be necessarily products, but I would say, is it something that people use? So what's the search? So essentially, what is the BSR? What is known as a best-selling rank? And is it something that has a decent margin on that product? So, are you buying it at a rate that does more than make up the Amazon fees, right? A lot of times people just want to put inventory into your store, right? And that's great if they just want to fulfill inventory, but you want to be able to buy inventory to put it into somebody's store that makes them profitable at X margin above whatever Amazon takes out for that particular product. Does it make sense? Kind of.
They're gonna again. We get to break this down.
Yeah.
Thousands of more videos.
Oh yeah, we've got multiple parts coming, man. Yeah.
So in this case, you get handed off a turd per se.
Worse. 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 Much worse.
It was a turd. I could have.
I could have done with the turd, man. And that would have been much easier, man, with a shot of tequila.
How much time did it take for you to realize that this is too far gone? It's beyond reproach.
Yeah.
How long did it take? Like, what did you see that was like, I'm done. I can't help it.
Yeah, I would say late in December. I realized that this is almost impossible to fix, right? And, I was praying and still holding out, in faith that, new deals would come through. I could take the money from new deals and put it back into inventory. Oh, that's another thing too, because there was hundreds of thousands of dollars that weren't paid back to clients for inventory. Their the funds that they spent on merchandise wasn't there. So I was having to backfill and shovel constantly the money back to filling this, plus the liquidations, plus keep all of the staff going. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. So late December, I knew earlier on that this is going to be a fight, but I was hoping and praying after all of the cuts and all of the waste that I solved, because there's just so much waste, so many wasteful expenditures going on at the company. It's ridiculous.
So talk to the people about managing what you perceive as an opportunity versus the numbers. And let me try to make sure I'm clear with this. I get what you said when you're like, hey, we've got a $4 product, we're paying somebody $25, and that product is selling for $75.
That's a win.
But there's a 53% chance that it's going to come back.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So
correct. Yeah.
That number, when I just heard you say that, for me, I go, oh, this is a waste of money.
Yeah.
Got to cut the fat.
That's exactly right. And so that's exactly right. So what does that mean exactly? So if, say, for example, if you buy a shirt on Amazon, okay, women's apparel is returned the most, period, right? Men don't care as much what color fuchsia it is. That's just a fact. But with that being said, if you're ever curious about the returns on Amazon, I ask you to please go visit your local UPS store. They have a special place that's made for returns for Amazon, and you're going to see tons of women's apparel. All day long, they have a separate line. Oh yeah, it's easy to see. And so what this boils down to is, there's different products in different categories, right? But so one is a business side. So when I say something costs $4, if we're selling it to the client for $8, okay, yes, we may have made $4 on the product. But how much money do we really make on when somebody we're paying $25 an hour is doing 25 products or 30 products in a day, or 40 products in a day? How much money is the company really making when you dial it down? And then not to mention the packaging, the boxes, so on and so forth. The insurance or whatever else you have, the rent to be able to cover these expenditures and so on and so forth. So by the time you dial it down, you think like Six Sigma, when you start dialing it down and you go down to the square root, you realize, okay, well, this isn't really profitable. Why don't I use higher end margins, right? Higher end items, so we can fulfill the manifest quicker, so that we can get better items in their store, so that one, they could be more profitable, the clients could be more profitable. That's what you're hoping, right? That the clients can be more profitable, lower that return rate, right, to as low as possible, and fulfill their manifest much faster. Because how long does it take to fulfill a $10,000 manifest of $3 items, or $5 items, or whatever it might be? But you get the point. So you want to use higher end items, right? And not everything has to be a higher end item, but you get the point. How fast does it sell? What cost did you obtain it? And after Amazon fees, what are you making from it?
Now, walk them through, because this is going to be the way we close out part 2, is what is your intent and goal as you do this sit down and try to, I don't want to say redeem yourself, but basically make sure that to a degree these people are kind of held accountable.
Agreed. Yeah. So essentially, with us releasing multiple parts of this video, 1 to 2, 1, tell you who I am. Number 2, tell you my objectives. Number 3, explain to you why I'm doing this video. And 4, so the people that did what they did are going to be held accountable. I want that. Because if you trusted in a company and you put in your time and your money, yes, it's business and there's risks in business. I totally understand that, right? But there's certain things in business, and there's certain standards of ethics, in my opinion, that need to be upheld. And if you're not upholding those ethical standards, then this is the kind of thing that happens. Somebody's going to get on camera and call you out on it.
And in this case, we'll close this one out with this. How important is it to stand up for yourself in today's time and in life in general. Because you, again, backed into a corner, you tried to do everything you could.
Oh, yeah.
You put yourself in debt. You wanted what was best for people, but they didn't want what was best for them. And all you've learned is doing good doesn't always...
That's correct. It reminds me of Job in the Bible, right? And not that I'm going to get into Job, but it reminds me of Job in the Bible, man. I literally took the shirt off my back. I haven't made any money from this company in over a year. I don't even think I've made $1 on it, right? I've taken on hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. In addition to taking on hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, I've taken out hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans. I've even used my personal credit cards and maxed those out to try to make right by everyone that's involved. I care about our clients from the bottom of my heart. I care about them, and I wanted to do everything that I can for them. And unfortunately, I, in my personal opinion, I'm the only one that actually cared about them at all. I gave any crap about it. And I hate to say it like that, but that's the truth. So that's why I'm here. That's why I've been reaching out to many of you by phone, letting you know what's going on. There's also been certain things that have been shared, that haven't been shared yet, but with each series of videos that comes out, I'm going to be sharing more. So you'll be able to dive into even more details of what happened. And essentially, in my personal opinion, the sabotage that I was facing.